I worked myself to death in my past life, but reborn as a noble. This time, I'm the one pulling the strings, not the one being crushed."
Bram scoffs, claiming only the legendary ancient dragon race could ever liquefy ordinary iron ore. Ryan's eyes light up. He's finally cracked the code of this backward world. He realizes the locals are clueless about thermodynamics. And he's about to drop a masterclass in science that will leave this dwarf absolutely speechless. Ryan coolly asks if the reason they can't melt iron is that their furnace technology is stuck in the Stone Age. Bram retorts that no furnace on the continent can handle such a task. Ryan just smirks, betting his reputation that he can build a furnace that melts iron like butter. Leaving the dwarf baffled by his sudden. Ryan makes a deal. If he builds a furnace that liquefies iron, Bram must forge the parts. Bram, convinced he's dealing with a pampered brat, agrees to the terms. Then storms out to give Ryan space to fail miserably in his absurd, doomed, and potentially workshop-destroying experiment. Ryan inspects the sad excuse for a furnace. It's a total disaster, no secondary oxygens applied, no efficiency, just pure incompetence. He grabs a heavy mallet, eyes the structure with professional disdain, and prepares to initiate some aggressive upgrades that will make the workshop look like a battlefield for progress, ignoring the bewildered, fearful stares from his onlookers. The hammer comes down hard. Crack. Ryan explains the concept of forced air and combustion efficiency to his confused, trembling companions. He knows that once these ventilation holes are properly positioned, the internal temperature will skyrocket enough to melt the stubbornest iron ore on this entire continent, proving that science always triumphs over unrefined tradition. Bram returns to find his life's work looking like a piece of Swiss cheese. He is livid, ready to throw hands, screaming about the years of effort he poured into those bricks. Ryan just waves a hand, telling him to calm down and trust the process, because the real show is about to start. Bram is convinced Ryan has lost his mind, rambling on about how hard iron is and how this ruined furnace will be even colder. He's itching to beat Ryan to a pulp. But Ryan dares him to add the fuel. It's the ultimate high-stakes bet, modern science versus stubborn pride in a trial by fire. The fire roars to life. Bram and his entourage hover over the furnace, squinting into the heat, watching intently as the metal begins to glow with an intense and natural ferocity. They are dead silent, realizing their entire understanding of physics is being rewritten by the Lord who they thought was just a spoiled noble. The impossible happens. The iron ore collapses into molten liquid, flowing perfectly. Bram's jaw hits the floor. He's staring at his furnace as if it's a portal to another dimension. Ryan just wipes his hands triumphant, as he watches his theory turn into a glowing, molten reality. The result is undeniable. The molten iron pools at the base of the furnace, proving the modified design works beyond anyone's expectations. Bram fears Duke Oscar's retaliation, but Ryan brushes it off with a cold smirk. He tells the dwarf he has nothing to fear if the Duke doesn't come looking for trouble. Ryan will personally hunt him down and settle the score once and for all. Bram finally finishes those intricate, heavy-duty gears, and Ryan is practically vibrating with sheer, unadulterated joy. He holds the core like it's the legendary Holy Grail. Grinning like a brilliant madman, he knows this isn't just a hunk of cold, processed metal. It's the tiny spark that's going to ignite the entire industrial era, finally leaving this dusty, magical, backwater world in the dust. Leah and Aurora are hovering nearby like extremely worried mothers, nagging Ryan about whether these primitive parts can actually handle the intense, high-pressure steam. Ryan just laughs off their constant concerns. He knows Lysel failed because she was merely guessing, while he is armed with the cold, hard, and undeniable logic of modern, high-level science. Ryan completely ignores Armando's grumbling about his late teacher, coolly telling the kid to stop whining and prepare to become his most productive subordinate. The tension in the workshop is thick, but Ryan isn't interested in personal drama, he is only interested in results. He slides the final gear into the core with a loud, satisfying click, ready to show them a real, physical miracle. Vroom! The massive engine suddenly roars to life, spitting out thick black smoke like a chain-smoking dragon. The silence that follows is absolutely deafening. Aura is totally floored, eyes wide as saucers, while Armando is a sobbing, emotional mess, staring at his master's legacy finally breathing and functioning again. It is a moment of pure raw engineering triumph. Armando is completely lost in the swirling mists of the past. He remembers his master's trembling, tired hands and her dying desperate wish to make this machine work for the common good of humanity. The vivid memory of her instructions, the specific way she coupled the parts floods his mind entirely. He is not just a student anymore. He's witnessing history being rewritten right here. Tears stream uncontrollably down Armando's face as he kneels before the machine, whispering soft, heartbreaking prayers to his master in the heavens. It's an emotional breakdown that would surely melt a heart of stone. Ryan, ever the pragmatist, tells the elf to just let the kid cry it out. Repressed trauma is, after all, simply bad for daily productivity and long-term focus. 3 hours later, Bram is back, staring at the smoking beast with total, unadulterated confusion. It just makes smoke, kid. Is this your grand miracle? Ryan sighs deeply. Realizing he has to put on his professor hat once again, he prepares to explain that this machine is not a fancy, oversized toaster. Ryan starts his Industrial Revolution for Dummies lecture. He explains that this steam engine can power giant mills, complex looms, and even heavy war machines, making everything else look like a pathetic child's toy. The group listens in total awe, their faces showing the slow, agonizing realization that their entire world is about to be completely and irreversibly turned upside down. Ryan feels like he's on top of the world until Rosalind suddenly rushes into the workshop, looking frantic. She catches her breath and finally delivers the news. His sister, the formidable Priscilla, has just arrived in the city. Rosalind then mentions a special gift from his sister. Ryan starts dreaming of mountains of shiny gold, only for Rosalind to drop the hammer. It isn't gold, but a group of 18-year-old girls who have just come of age. Ryan stands there in utter shock, wondering if his ears are malfunctioning. He wanted cold, hard gold, not this massive, social, and logistical headache. Rain strolls back into the grand, echoing halls of his castle and immediately runs into his sister, Priscilla. They share an unexpectedly sweet, nostalgic moment, genuinely admitting how much they've truly missed each other. But Rain quickly kills the vibe, demanding to know why his peaceful home is suddenly crawling with a dozen wide-eyed debutantes who won't stop staring at him like he's a piece of prime meat. Priscilla just teases him with a devious smirk, asking if he's struggling with his bachelor life or if the girls simply aren't his type. Rain scoffs, insisting that's not the issue at all. The real, soul-crushing headache is the judgmental way his own staff looks at him. He's terrified they think he's a total, unrepentant creep, which is absolutely ruining his hard-earned reputation. Rain is sweating absolute bullets, convinced that beneath her icy, professional mask, Leah has pegged him as a shameless, wandering-eyed pervert for bringing all these women into his home. He complains loudly that Leah's expression has turned deathly cold. He remembers her as the gentle, supportive type, but now she's giving him a look that could freeze a fire-breathing dragon solid. Priscilla just grins, clearly enjoying the absolute chaos, and casually mentions that Leah only acts that way because she cares far too much about his romantic life. Rain is totally mortified, feeling like his sister just poured gallons of gasoline on a roaring fire. Seeing him unravel, she finally decides to stop the games and pulls out the damning evidence of his supposed request. Rain is stunned, frantically demanding to know what secret message she's referring to. Priscilla casually whips out the letter he sent, the one that mentioned Rosalind. It turns out she completely misread his intentions, acting on what she thought was a desperate, lonely plea for romantic options and future marriage prospects. Rain can't believe her hallucinated dating pool. Leah, standing nearby, tries desperately to keep her cool, stammering that she's just a lowly servant with no right to comment on her lord's wives. But as the tension hits the ceiling, she stands there, rigid and trembling. Suddenly, Priscilla drags him away, and the sanctuary of his private office. The air is thick with palpable, awkward tension. They finally drop the act to discuss the fallout of this massive, hilarious, and unintended social disaster. Rain sighs heavily, trying to clear his head, while Priscilla just looks thoroughly amused by how much she's managed to ruin his social life in just a few short minutes. Sitting in the dim office, Rain suddenly zones out, completely overwhelmed by the sheer absurdity of his situation. He stares blankly at the wall, his mind drifting away from the complex noble drama and his ambitious industrial projects. He feels a strange, detached sense of confusion, as if he's watching his own life unfold from a distant, invisible perspective. It suddenly hits him like a jagged bolt of lightning. He's been so buried in the suffocating political drama of this world that he's completely forgotten his own past identity. The crushing, heavy weight of his previous life as a modern, ordinary man comes crashing back into his consciousness, and for one brief, agonizing moment, he is utterly paralyzed by the sheer, bitter irony of his current, noble situation. He finally realizes he is nothing more than a total stranger trapped in a bizarre, magical land. He's just a man from a completely different, civilized era trying to play the part of a powerful noble lord, and he is clearly, hopelessly out of his depth. He just sits there in the heavy, oppressive silence, deeply processing the shocking fact that he was once just a regular, boring guy before he tragically ended up in this chaotic, nonsensical fantasy mess. Rain frantically shakes off the lingering, existential dread, knowing he has to pull himself together before he completely loses his mind. He still desperately needs to industrialize this backward world and somehow deal with his sister's bizarre, chaotic gifts. He stands up with a weary sigh, ready to face the music, knowing full well that his life as a lord is going to be anything but quiet, peaceful, or remotely normal from this fateful day forward. Rain seizes the golden opportunity, finally telling his sister that he has a specific, ambitious plan where he desperately needs her support. Priscilla is genuinely surprised. She thought her brother was doing just fine. But he immediately pivots to the topic of investing in himself. He needs her help to turn his crumbling, dusty city into an industrial powerhouse of the future. Priscilla raises an elegant eyebrow, playfully mocking him for asking for more resources when he just squeezed the corrupt city nobles dry. Rain sighs, explaining that he isn't looking for cold gold, he's hunting for talent. The city's population is decimated by years of war, and he needs skilled craftsmen, savvy farmers, and sharp administrators to actually get things moving. Rain promises he won't take them for free, he'll provide well and ensure they learn the latest, world-changing technology. Priscilla admits the plan sounds brilliant. But she's not about to hand over her territory's pillars just for fun. She demands real results, asking if she looks like a simple charity worker to him. The tone shifts entirely as Priscilla turns to her loyal secretary, Gwen. She's finally dropping the supportive sister mask to express her true, simmering rage. The Emperor poisoned Rain, permanently blocking him from practicing martial arts. And she is absolutely not going to let that slide. She tells Gwen to track down the prince and pick the weakest target for retaliation. Priscilla is practically vibrating with cold, lethal fury, declaring that no one touches her precious brother and walks away unscathed. Gwen nods, fully on board, assuring her that everything will be handled with surgical, quiet precision. The loyalty here is terrifying. But it's exactly what a lord needs when plotting to dismantle an empire. Gwen agrees that Rain is intelligent and hardworking, but Priscilla's mind is elsewhere, firmly fixed on a path of dark vengeance. She makes it clear that the Emperor is on her hit list. With the political maneuvering settled in the shadows, the scene abruptly shifts to the darker, grittier, and more dangerous reality of the thick forest. Deep in the dark, tangled woods, a band of low-life human traffickers is hauling their merchandise through the trees. They're busy whining about how their boss, Eldrick, takes the biggest cut while they do all the filthy work. One thug complains that the risk is all theirs, yet the massive profit is somehow all his. Their scout suddenly bursts in with panicked, breathless news. The city's leadership has changed, and Eldrick is officially out. The boss is absolutely furious, demanding immediate answers. And the scout explains that the city gates were guarded by total strangers who weren't taking any bribes. The entire operation is crumbling faster than a cheap, forgotten house of cards. The thugs argue over whether to retreat, but the boss snaps they've already promised these girls to Duke Oscar for a massive, life-changing payday. If they don't deliver, they're dead meat. He decides they'll pose as normal, harmless merchants and try to sneak the rest of the slaves in small, stealthy, and inconspicuous batches. The boss is confident that no man is immune to a bribe if you throw enough shining gold at them. He decides to stay the night in the forest to rethink their strategy. Little do they know, this quiet rest stop is about to be the biggest, most fatal mistake of their pathetic criminal careers. As the moon climbs high, the mood shifts from greedy plotting to pure, disgusting depravity. One of the thugs suggests they take advantage of the captured women since they're stuck in the middle of now. Here, the boss, always the biggest scumbag of the lot, agrees but claims the red-headed girl for himself. 2/10. The thugs are laughing, grabbing the girls and dragging them toward a nearby cave like absolute and feeling animals. They're busy imagining their twisted, vile fantasies, completely unaware that their luck has just run out. The silence of the forest is about to be shattered by a very different, Very dangerous kind of visitor. The scumbags start closing in on the girls, their greedy, calloused hands reaching out, ready to commit their truly vile act. It seems like the perfect, twisted setup for their villainous victory, but just as they are about to strike, the atmosphere abruptly shifts. The air suddenly grows heavy and suffocating, filled with a murderous, freezing, and soul-chilling intent that stops them dead in their tracks. A cold, commanding voice cuts through the thick darkness like a razor-sharp guillotine, demanding they stop immediately. The thugs freeze in terror, turning around to find Rosalind standing there, her eyes burning with an intense, lethal desire to tear them limb from limb. The predator has finally become the prey, and she is clearly not in any mood for mercy tonight.